Hi, everyone. It is Sue Stiles, and I am here today on this episode of Hindsight's 2020 interviewing Petrena Schell. Petrena is a travel adventurer. She is a motivational speaker. She is a nature lover and enthusiast. Lots of natural remedies and health that we're going to talk about. I met Petrena when I was invited to a women's speakers luncheon. So a bunch of professional speakers who were women. We shared a lunch together, and we ended up chatting. And I was so interested in this young lady. And we're going to talk about her trip to Africa, how she uses her intuition to take her life where she never knew it could go. Hello, Petrena.
Hello, Sue.
I could just go on and on and on, all the exciting stuff I've heard from you, but I will let you speak also. In these hindsight shows, I have been starting off talking about business and how to get business. Mostly I work with small business owners, and the number one question people always want to know is, what is the best way to get business? So even for somebody as you and successful and you've reached a certain level, if you think about it, could we start with this question? What have you found to be one of the best ways or the best ways of getting business?
For myself, really, it comes down to doing a lot of networking, getting yourself out there, meeting people, and letting people know what you do. From there, I think the most important thing that's helped me in all of my business ventures in my life, and I don't say think, I know, is word of mouth and building that rapport with people so that people are talking about you and talking about what you offer and talking about what they got out of what you offer. Because at the end of the day, word of mouth is probably one of the most important avenues in business that there is.
That takes time.
It does.
When you think about some things you might have tried that were hard or didn't return on your time, or maybe were a waste of time, can you speak around that at all?
For sure, I think when you're first growing your online presence and working at doing business online, that was definitely one of my biggest hurdles because it was a new ballpark for me, a totally new playing field, and learning how to connect with people online and be able to promote myself to the same extent as I can in person, connecting with people face to face was very, very difficult. And I can see why it's one of those things that people give up on. I would never say it's a waste of time. It's only a waste of time if you quit and, throw in the towel before you start reaping the rewards. But if you can stick it out, you'll start seeing the results, then it's definitely not a waste of time. But
Is there any bit of advice if somebody's just starting their business or their service and they're trying to be on Facebook or Instagram, or is there any bit of advice you could say, like how should they show up, or what have you found success with?
Well, absolutely show up fully in your full energy because people feel that, and be authentic because people also feel that. And another big, big aspect to it is connect with people. You need to talk to people. You need to message people. You need to comment on other people's things because that's truly how you're going to get your name out there and start conversations. I think that was the hard part for me in the beginning.
So it's not just a one-way street where you're pushing out, hey, look at me, do you like this? Watch me, follow me. It's that interaction of also saying, oh, I'm interested in getting to know this person, and you're commenting and connecting from your side as well as a two-way street.
Definitely, because you're building that rapport with people.
Yeah, great advice. Great advice. Even just to hear it again, yes, that makes sense. Well, the next question that I wanted to ask is, if you look back over your life, is there something that you could say has changed your life for better or worse? But looking back and now that you know, what would you say was something that impacted you?
One of the biggest things that impacted me in my life was about 15 years ago when I initially applied to go do a volunteer project in Central America. And knowing that I was born to travel and doing a lot of travel in Canada up until that point, this was my first time putting myself out there to go internationally and be of service, because that's also very important to me. doing that trip opened up a whole new world of opportunities for me. That is literally when the world started ricocheting me around, and I've truly started living my passion and my purpose.
Wow. How did you find out about that volunteer project?
It was actually through a friend of mine, and I was going to college here in Calgary, and I was working at a brew pub downtown, and a friend of mine, she was going, her brother had already gone with this organization, so they already had a good rapport with people I knew, so I decided it would be a good opportunity for
Good for you, to be brave and go out and do that. I haven't heard about volunteer projects for a while, maybe since my kids are a bit older, but great reminder, like what an opportunity to serve and travel kind of safely.
me. Definitely.
And what did that lead to for you?
For myself, well, then I got a position as a group leader on these volunteer projects. So I ended up sticking around Central and South America for a couple of years. I came back to Canada to do some training and things like this and some courses that I needed. And I also had to learn Spanish in order to be a group leader. So I bought a kit from the bookstore. And on my first placement, which was in English Guyana in South America, I used that time at night to teach myself Spanish so that I could go on to lead other projects. And from there, after I did that for a couple of years, I decided it was time that I fulfill my childhood dream of going to Africa.
How do you get a childhood dream to go to Africa when you're from Canada?
A small town in Northwest Territories. I got enamored by watching the African infomercials of the children at orphanages, and I would watch them all the time. And at 5 years old, I knew I wanted to adopt an African child, and I obviously was too young to do that, but I also knew at that moment that I would be visiting Africa one day and I would experience life with the locals, because that was very important to me when you go places to really get in there with the locals and experience the real culture and community.
How many of us as children have a feeling or an idea or a passion or a dream or a desire that we just feel like we're meant to do something. And then we just brush it aside as we get older because we got to work or, life gets in the way of our dreams. So tell me about making that dream come true and what happened when you went to Africa.
um, Well, I went back to the Northwest Territories, where I'm from, in northern Canada, for 6 months before going to Africa, just to work and save some money. And I knew I was going to go to Africa. I just didn't know it was going to turn out to this extent. When I sat down to book my plane ticket, for some reason, I thought it was a good idea to book a plane ticket to Cape Town, South Africa, return from Cairo, Egypt. So, from one end to the other. And I didn't plan anything in between. There was no tours. There was nothing like that. I didn't even plan where I was going to be staying along the way. I literally just bought that plane ticket and knew that I was going to get from point A to point B. And I thought it would take me 3 months. So I saved money for 3 months. However, when I arrived there, 3 months into my trip, I was still only in South Africa. So I hadn't even left the first country that I arrived to. And knowing that I had a whole continent to cross still, and spending the money I had saved for the 3 months, I knew I had to come up with a solution. And being a massage therapist, I decided on buy a portable massage table and use that skill to barter my way across the continent.
Is this safe for a young girl to just travel across there?
Well, funny thing is, before I left Canada, I got interviewed by News North, which is the newspaper for all the Northern Territories, Northwest Territories, Nunavut, and Yukon. They did a whole one-page write-up on me. And when people started reading that, I would run into people in the street and they're like, "Oh, Petrena, I've seen the article on you and what you're going to do. You're going to cross Africa." And they'd go to shake my hand. And as they shook my hand, they're like, "Have fun dying." And I was like, "Pardon?" And when the first 10 people said this, I was like, "What are they talking about? I'm not going to die in Africa." And then when the 20th person said this, I was like, maybe I am. You never know, but I could also die in Canada. So why would I hold myself back really from fulfilling my dream? And when you're traveling alone in different countries, first of all, the locals thought I was crazy. So they're like, "Are you crazy? What are you doing traveling here by yourself? It's dangerous for us. It's definitely dangerous for you." But on the other side of that, when you're traveling alone, people always want to help you. I always had so many people helping me. Whereas when I've traveled with other people, or sometimes I would meet people along the way and they're going the same direction, so I'd travel with them, nobody helped us because you have someone else. So that's kind of when you get into more troubles. When you're by
Interesting.
yourself, people will help.
Okay, so you get held up, you're interested for a long time there, you need some money, you buy a massage table so you can go to work, but you're a nomad. You don't have a home, you don't have an office. How does this happen? What did you do?
Portable massage table, so I can carry it with me anywhere I go. Doesn't mean it wasn't heavy. It was still about over 20 pounds, maybe 25 pounds. And I would have my backpack, 70-liter backpack, and I would have to put the strap of the table on top of my backpack strap. Otherwise, sometimes when I was walking for 5 hours at a time, it would dig in otherwise. So I had to like rig it up that I could carry both and not destroy my shoulder. And I would only go to overland tour camps where those overland tour trucks would come through with all the tourists on their overland trip. And then when I knew a truck was coming in, I'd put up my little sign, because people who have been on a vehicle for weeks, sitting in a truck, then they're definitely sore and needing a massage. And then once one person got one, then that's when the rapport would start, and they would tell everyone, she's amazing. That is the best massage I've ever had. You have to get one. So then suddenly everyone wants one, and I would have like 10 massages in a day. So I'm doing a 10-hour day. But I would find those camps, and then I would go there.
Wow. I mean, that's just something for business too. Like if you have a service to offer, throw yourself in the middle of your ideal client,
Yeah.
people who have been sitting traveling all day. This is amazing. So how long did you travel with that massage table, putting yourself, like, how many more months was that?
I had it for about a year, because by the time I got up to Uganda, I had carried that thing so far and I was sick of it. It's been tied on buses. It's been, in the craziest places. I've been in rural villages where they never see foreign people, and they're pulling my table off the top of a bus. And the only thing the village can say is, hello, doctor. And I'm like, I'm not a doctor. You know what? I was physically, mentally, emotionally exhausted. So there was a family in Uganda that was learning massage and couldn't afford a table. And at that point, I was like, you know what? You can have my table. I'm done with it. I'll just finish my trip without it.
Wow. Wow. So am I hearing also that the 3-month trip turned into a year and 3 months?
Yeah, it was about that.
Wow. So I imagine, is this what you are looking forward to writing your book about?
Yes, my first book is about this experience.
Okay. I mean, what a amazing book that would be. And you put yourself through with the massage funds. You are exhausted. You get back. How many years ago was this?
So that trip, it was 10 years ago, and I
Okay.
finished about 9 years ago.
Okay. So now, looking forward and where you are now, what is on your mind? Who is Petrena? How did you grow, and what are you doing now, 10 years later?
Well, since then, I've obviously accomplished a lot of things and had other professional careers. At this moment, I am really focused on writing my book. It's very important to me to get the story out there, and that people can relate to it and relate to going after their own dreams and chasing their own goals and getting out of their own way and finding a solution to fulfill their dreams. I'm also professionally speaking, and I have my YouTube channel, which is based on travel, mindset, and natural health, because I'm very much into natural health, natural healing. Yeah. So
Okay, now when we were talking earlier, you mentioned something about using your research in natural health to help you climb and help some other ladies get to the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro. Is that right?
yes.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, when I was just actually back in Tanzania in January and February, we went to Summit Mount Kilimanjaro and did a volunteer project again with the women's organization. And I went with a group called Hugo Travel for Change, and they're amazing. And a couple of the females in the group were having a lot of problems with the altitude. Now, before we went to Summit Kilimanjaro, I did my research on altitude sickness and found out that the reason you get so sick is because as you get higher, your blood gets thicker, and then your blood is not able to carry that vital oxygen to your organs. So everything starts slowing down. So I took an alternative route and decided to take different natural remedies that help thin my blood, and that way I adapt better as I go up. I took actually prenatals also because it has iron in prenatals to help build my
Hmm.
blood. I used essential oils. I had garlic pills. I did quite a few things, oregano oil, and I made sure I had proper supplements. And I brought shakes as well because sometimes you lose your appetite when you're up there, and it's so important to make sure you have your energy and that you're, feeding your body because your body needs those nutrients. So there was, a couple ladies that were having a very hard time with the altitude, and it was hitting them in ways they were getting like nauseous and vomiting and dizzy. So the day before summit was actually that evening we were going to be leaving. I gave them a bunch of my stuff, natural remedies and some shakes, just to help their body get ready for this. And they were able to summit. And at the top, one of them was hugging me, saying, "Thank you so much, Petrena. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here. I would never have made it this far."
Just from what nature already gives us, but knowing about it.
Completely.
And when it came to malaria, you did the same sort of thing. Like we get shots for that, but you just tell me about that.
Well, malaria, so there is no actual shot for malaria. You can take anti-malarial pills, but they
Okay.
get you 100%. And they're actually really hard on your liver. I took anti-malarials as a volunteer 15 years ago because it was mandatory as a volunteer on that project. And I got like almost second degree burns from the sun. I had blisters everywhere and I was wearing 50 SPF. I couldn't sleep on my back, my stomach. It was horrible. Even the villagers were bringing me plants and medicinal things. They're like, "What is wrong with her?" So after that, I was like, "No, I can't ever put that in my body again." So I also researched malaria, and it is a parasite. So then I decided to look at all the alternative ways to, deal with this parasite and to make my body not livable of a parasite. And a big thing with malaria is to take things like papaya seeds because papaya seeds are very anti-parasitic,
Oh,
and papaya leaves are also great for boiling and making tea. Oregano oil is another great one, but every other day I would just get a papaya and eat a couple spoonfuls of the seeds, and they're very bitter. I did it again this year when I was there for Kilimanjaro on the volunteer project. And, there's been times when I was crossing Africa where I got chowed by mosquitoes, not by choice, not because I wasn't taking preventative measures to not get bitten by mosquitoes, but just unforeseen circumstances. And sometimes these things happen. And even my eyelids at one point were covered this one time. So right then I was like, I probably have malaria for sure because I'm covered. And I went to the doctor and he was like, "Oh, you definitely probably have malaria." So I went to him because I wanted to get the treatment. In Africa, it's so much easier to treat malaria than it is in Canada because they deal with that every day. And if you catch it fast enough, then the parasite hasn't had time to replicate, sorry. And as soon as it gets released into your blood, then they really replicate very fast. And that's why you get sick so fast. So I went to get the treatment because I was like, if I feel a fever or anything come on, I'm instantly going to think it's malaria and take the treatment. So I had like my incubation period that I was counting down on the calendar. It usually takes about a week. Sometimes it could take a couple months. But I was awaiting, and nothing ever happened. And I, to this day, knock on wood, I've never had malaria. And I
wow.
don't, so I'll keep taking preventative measures.
How interesting, there's so much interesting information when it comes to health and nutrition and um, just taking care of ourselves, providing our own solutions. You're a solution finder.
Definitely.
Tell me, it seems like you've taken whatever your values are, you've matched them with a career. What is your message now? What is that message that you share when you're speaking and doing what you love doing?
My message is, if you can really get past the fear and get comfortable being uncomfortable, you can truly achieve your dreams, whatever they may be, and let go of the vision of what you think things are supposed to look like, because things are never going to look how you expected them to look like. I never thought I was going to carry a massage table across Africa to make this dream happen. It just happened that way because that was how I needed it to happen at the time. But I was able to fulfill that dream. And in the meantime, when you let go of this big vision of what you think it's going to be, because then you're putting too much pressure on it, something even more amazing happens. And the results are even bigger than you could have ever imagined. So we truly are capable of anything. And if we just keep our intentions strong and keep that faith and belief in ourselves and what we want, we will achieve that for sure.
You sound so passionate, when you're talking about that. And I could see how business people, students, parents, anyone struggling to get through something, you have this vision in your head. I'm just hearing, keep going, don't give up, but maybe be open, more open. Don't like close yourself in on what that needs to be the result of. Just be open. It might be something better than you ever imagined.
Completely. Completely.
If I asked you to look back and kind of, the show's about hindsight, what you learning from your mistakes. What would you say would be your biggest takeaway that you could share? If you were talking to yourself 20 years ago, what would your advice be?
My advice would be that, perfection doesn't exist, because I used to suffer from a very big perfectionism mindset, and that's a trap. And you strive to be perfect, if you strive, for that perfection, but you're never going to get there because it doesn't exist. And when you don't get there, you come down really hard on yourself. At least I would come down very hard on myself. And I think back to 10 years ago when I was crossing Africa, when I was doing all these crazy, amazing things and fulfilling dreams. And I had opportunity after opportunity presented to me, many, many opportunities. It was amazing. But because I kept continually coming down really hard on myself, because I kept striving for perfection instead of just being realistic and doing my best at everything, I could have gone so much further and created even bigger things than I did create. I mean, I did create really big things. But in hindsight, yeah, I would definitely have wanted to tell myself just to let things flow sometimes and don't be so hard on yourself.
So hard for people who are high achievers, type A, sort of that choleric or even sanguine personality type, because some people do naturally just flow with the times, but they don't often have big, aggressive, dreams. I found a similar thing when I started speaking in groups. Sometimes the feedback was, Sue, you're very polished and you appear very professional. And when I look back, I think that was because I knew exactly what I was going to say. I knew what I wanted the people to hear. And over the last few years, I've just started answering and responding to needs more, and the feedback is so much more thankful. People are really getting stuff, and I'm not hearing so much of, oh, it's perfect, it's polished, it's very professional. Now I'm hearing more, wow, that really hit me, that was great, can you come and speak somewhere else? And so it's interesting, I really resonate with that, just letting go of some of that control, but while you're still on the path, and I guess while you're still thinking of what are my values, you seem to have been able to really mesh those all together.
Definitely taken some work and some inner search and things like this. I've done a lot of personal development, but I've definitely been very privileged to be able to sort this all out and pull my values together and create things out of that.
Nice. Well, I want you just sort of to wrap up here. I remember you mentioning something about a very special lady in your life, and how she was instrumental in helping you find the health part of your life through nature, but I'm sure many other things. And that was your grandmother.
Mm-hmm. My grandmother was absolutely amazing. I am Cree Indian, so of Cree descent. I am Métis. And growing up with my grandmother, she would have me out in the forest eating plants and saps, and she would be teaching me all about the land and how connected we are with the land and with nature. And that was such a gift she gave me from such a young age that I've taken with me my whole life. And I'll forever be grateful for that.
Wow. So much. I just want to encourage people, like, if you have people in your life, share your gifts with them. Tell them the things that you've learned. Help them. It only takes one person. When you look back over your life, there's these special people who add in and perhaps help take you to where you need to go. They don't know. You don't know if you say a word to somebody where it might lead. So, oh, thank you so much. It's so interesting to chat. I can't wait to read your book, and love that you are speaking. So if you're looking for a motivational speaker, Petrena Schell, you can be found on YouTube. You have a YouTube channel under your name. It's Schell, Schell.
Yeah.
And Petrena is Petrena.
Yes.
Right. So find her on Instagram, find her on YouTube. And thank you so much for sharing today. I know this will be interesting for people to listen to.
Thank you so much, Sue. It's been wonderful.
Thank you. And we'll see you on our next episode of Hindsight's 2020. Bye for now. That's a wrap.